Welcome to True Crime Talks. In today's case, we uncover the shocking tale of a forbidden romance that ended in murder. Ethan and Rachel appeared to have the perfect suburban life. Married for 10 years, they lived in a charming, picturesque home on a quiet street, raising their two young children. Their life seemed like the quintessential dream: weekend barbecues, family vacations, and neighborhood gatherings where they were often admired as a model couple. Rachel's younger sister, Lily, was a frequent presence in their lives, particularly after moving back to their town following a tumultuous breakup. She often spent weekends with them, helping with the kids or joining them for dinners. Lily was everything Rachel was not. Where Rachel was composed, measured, and methodical, Lily was carefree, vibrant, and spontaneous. Her easy laughter filled the house in a way that captivated Ethan, who increasingly found himself drawn to her. At first, he dismissed his interest as innocent admiration for her spirited personality. After all, she was his sister-in-law, and they had always been friendly. Yet the line between familial affection and something more began to blur as Ethan started to seek out moments to be alone with her. At family gatherings, he would gravitate toward Lily, engaging her in conversations that felt more intimate than they should. Rachel, occupied with hosting duties or keeping the children in line, seemed oblivious to the subtle shift in their dynamic. Ethan began to notice details about Lily he had never paid attention to before: the way her smile lingered, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about her dreams. Small, seemingly innocent interactions began to take on a life of their own. Lily, meanwhile, was still reeling from her recent breakup and found solace in the stability of her sister's household. Ethan's attention felt comforting and validating in a way she hadn't experienced in months. She leaned on him more and more, seeking advice, sharing her frustrations, and opening up about her insecurities. What started as a source of emotional support quickly became something far more complicated. As the months passed, the undercurrent of tension between Ethan and Lily grew stronger. They began to steal moments of closeness, lingering in conversations long after Rachel had left the room, or brushing against each other in ways that felt accidental but were not. These moments, though brief, were electric, and neither of them could deny the pull they felt toward one another. Rachel began to notice subtle changes in her husband's behavior. He seemed distracted, distant even, and overly eager to offer help whenever Lily needed something. But Rachel brushed off her suspicions, convincing herself that she was imagining things. She trusted Ethan implicitly and loved her sister deeply. Little did she know, the foundations of her family were beginning to crack beneath the surface. What was initially a quiet and unspoken attraction soon evolved into a full-blown affair. Ethan and Lily found themselves increasingly entangled in a web of secrecy, unable to resist the temptation of their growing feelings. Their stolen glances turned into lingering touches, and their innocent conversations became whispered confessions. Both knew what they were doing was wrong, but the thrill of the forbidden made it impossible to stop. Ethan started creating elaborate excuses just to spend time away from home. Work meetings suddenly stretched late into the evening, and weekend errands became unnecessarily long. These moments allowed him to meet Lily in secluded places where they could be together without fear of discovery. They exchanged texts incessantly, their messages a mix of passion and guilt. Each rendezvous heightened the intensity of their affair, binding them together in secrecy. For Lily, the affair was a way to fill the emotional void left by her failed relationship. Ethan provided her with a sense of attention and affection she hadn't felt in years. Despite the shame, she rationalized her actions as something beyond her control. Ethan, on the other hand, was living a double life. While he continued to fulfill his responsibilities as a husband and father, his mind was consumed by his obsession with Lily. Rachel, however, was no longer oblivious to the cracks forming in her marriage. Ethan had become distant and irritable, often snapping at her for no reason. She noticed him guarding his phone, a habit he'd never had before, and catching him lost in thought more often than not. Her instincts told her something was amiss, but every time she tried to bring it up, Ethan dismissed her concerns with a practiced charm. One day, while cleaning Ethan's jacket, Rachel stumbled upon a receipt from a hotel she didn't recognize. The date on the slip corresponded to a weekend when Ethan had claimed to be working overtime. Her stomach churned as she realized her suspicions might be more than paranoia. she decided to quietly investigate further before confronting him. Rachel's growing unease led her to hire a private investigator, a decision she agonized over. Within days, the investigator returned with evidence that shattered Rachel's world: photos of Ethan and Lily together in intimate moments. The images confirmed what Rachel had feared the most. Still, she chose not to act immediately. Instead, she kept her discovery to herself, watching Ethan and Lily closely while quietly planning her next move. Unbeknownst to Ethan and Lily, the walls of their secret affair were closing in. What they thought was a carefully hidden relationship was on the verge of being exposed, setting the stage for an emotional reckoning none of them could have anticipated. On a seemingly ordinary evening, Rachel announced her intention to host a family dinner with Ethan and Lily. It was a carefully orchestrated move, designed to test the boundaries of their secrets. Rachel's calm demeanor masked the turmoil brewing within her, while Ethan and Lily, sensing something unusual, exchanged uneasy glances. Despite their apprehension, both agreed to attend, wary of raising suspicion or betraying their guilt. The atmosphere at the dinner table was thick with tension. Rachel appeared unusually composed, engaging in polite conversation and occasionally directing pointed remarks toward Ethan and Lily. Her questions, though seemingly innocent, were laden with implications that caused discomfort. She asked Ethan about his recent late nights and pressed Lily on her plans to move forward after her breakup. Each question felt like a jab, calculated to unsettle them. Ethan, already nervous, stumbled over his words, his usual composure faltering under Rachel's scrutiny. Lily tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but the subtle tremor in her voice betrayed her unease. Rachel's eyes darted between the two, quietly observing their reactions and cataloging every hesitation, every fleeting glance they exchanged. As dinner progressed, the tension reached a boiling point. Rachel's tone shifted as she began to speak directly about betrayal and the importance of trust in relationships. Her words dripped with double meanings, leaving no doubt that she was aware of the affair. The weight of her accusations hung in the air, unspoken yet unmistakable. Ethan's hands trembled, and Lily's face turned pale. Finally, Rachel dropped the pretense and revealed the evidence she had gathered. She placed a folder on the table containing the damning photos and detailed accounts from the private investigator. The room fell into stunned silence as Ethan and Lily stared at the evidence, unable to deny the truth any longer. Rachel's calm, icy demeanor only made the confrontation more chilling. With a measured tone, Rachel declared that their betrayal would not go unanswered. She ordered Lily to leave her house immediately and informed Ethan that she would be filing for divorce. The explosion of emotions that followed was overwhelming. Ethan pleaded for forgiveness, promising to end the affair and repair their marriage, while Lily fled the house in tears, overcome with shame and guilt. What none of them realized was that Rachel's fury ran far deeper than the confrontation itself. Her calmness was a facade, masking a dark and growing resolve. This moment was not the end of her response, it was only the beginning. Beneath her composed exterior, Rachel was already planning her next move, a plan that would have devastating consequences for them all. In the days following the explosive confrontation, Rachel's behavior became increasingly erratic. To the outside world, she appeared composed, even stoic, but beneath the surface, a storm of rage and betrayal consumed her. She replayed the events of the dinner in her mind endlessly, her emotions shifting between heartbreak and an uncontrollable desire for revenge. Ethan and Lily had not only destroyed her marriage but also fractured the trust and bond she had shared with her sister. The betrayal felt unbearable, and Rachel was determined that neither of them would escape the consequences. Ethan moved out of the family home and into a small motel, his life in disarray. He made half-hearted attempts to apologize to Rachel and repair the damage, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. Rachel ignored him entirely, using her time to focus on her own plans. Ethan, overwhelmed by guilt and the unraveling of his life, turned to alcohol for solace. His days became a blur of regret and self-loathing, leaving him oblivious to Rachel's growing fixation on revenge. Lily, meanwhile, tried to disappear. She moved into a friend's apartment on the other side of town, hoping to escape the fallout and distance herself from the pain she had caused. Despite her guilt, she also felt betrayed by Ethan, who had promised her that they could somehow build a future together. Now, with her relationship with Ethan in ruins and her bond with Rachel shattered, Lily was consumed by loneliness and fear. She rarely left the apartment, constantly looking over her shoulder, haunted by the memory of Rachel's cold, measured anger. Rachel, however, knew exactly where Lily was. Consumed by obsession, she began following her sister's movements, parking outside her apartment building for hours and watching from a distance. She tracked Lily's habits, learning where she went and who she saw. At the same time, Rachel escalated her harassment of Ethan, making anonymous calls to his workplace and spreading damaging rumors that jeopardized his job. She was methodical and calculated, using her pain as fuel to dismantle the lives of the two people who had wronged her. One evening, Rachel lured Lily to an abandoned property on the pretense of reconciliation. She sent a carefully worded message, claiming she wanted to make amends and discuss a way forward. Lily, hesitant but desperate to repair her relationship with her sister, reluctantly agreed. When she arrived, she found Rachel waiting in eerie silence. What followed was a violent and chaotic confrontation. Rachel's anguish boiled over into rage, and in a blind moment of fury, she struck Lily with a blunt object. The act was over in seconds, but its repercussions were irreversible. As Lily lay lifeless, Rachel stared at what she had done, the weight of her actions crashing down on her. Panicking, she hastily staged the scene, trying to make it look like an attack by an unknown assailant. What Rachel didn't realize was that her carefully constructed facade and desperate attempt to cover her tracks would soon begin to unravel. Lily's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. She was well known and liked, and her vanishing act raised immediate concerns among her friends and coworkers. Ethan, racked with guilt and suspicion, was one of the first to report her missing. He knew Rachel's anger was palpable, but he never imagined it could escalate to something dangerous. The police launched a thorough investigation, interviewing everyone close to Lily, including Rachel and Ethan. Both maintained calm facades, though Rachel's calmness was tinged with a deliberate detachment. As the investigation deepened, Rachel's attempts to cover her tracks began to crumble. Although she had tried to stage the scene of Lily's death as a random attack, the inconsistencies in her story raised red flags for detectives. When questioned, Rachel claimed she hadn't seen or spoken to Lily since the family dinner, but her tone betrayed an underlying tension. Investigators found security footage from a store near the abandoned property showing Rachel purchasing items that matched materials found at the staged scene, a detail she had overlooked in her panic. Meanwhile, forensic evidence began to paint a clearer picture. Items recovered from the crime scene bore traces of Rachel's fingerprints, contradicting her claims of ignorance. Additionally, Lily's phone, recovered nearby, revealed the last text messages sent to her were from Rachel, inviting her to meet. Confronted with mounting evidence, Rachel's once calm demeanor began to fracture. Ethan, devastated by Lily's death, was overcome with guilt. He realized his actions had set off a chain of events that spiraled far beyond his control. Unable to cope with the weight of his role in the tragedy, he broke down during questioning, revealing details of his affair with Lily and Rachel's growing instability in the days following the dinner confrontation. His testimony gave investigators the final piece they needed to charge Rachel. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Rachel confessed to the murder during interrogation. Her confession was a mixture of cold logic and emotional outbursts, describing how betrayal had pushed her beyond her breaking point. She claimed she never intended to kill Lily but admitted she had planned to confront her, and in her rage, everything spiraled out of control. At the trial, Rachel was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Ethan's life unraveled further, his career and reputation in ruins. He became a pariah in the community, a man whose actions indirectly led to the destruction of 2 lives. The tragedy left an indelible mark on everyone involved. The suburban ideal that Ethan, Rachel, and Lily had once embodied was replaced by a grim tale of betrayal, obsession, and devastating loss. It became a cautionary story of how unchecked emotions and forbidden desires can shatter lives, leaving only heartbreak and ruin in their wake.